Tonight, dog's breakfast. The Premier slams East's COVID-19 response as the Commissioner puts visiting footy teams on notice. Crews battle another day of rough weather in the search for a missing student off Yallingup. WA's $2.5 billion defence windfall in Australia's push for more military might. The iconic Avon descent axed in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. And Collingwood's Steel Sidebottom cops a 4-week ban for his coronavirus breach.
This is 10 News First, Perth, with Monica Koss.
Good evening. The Premier's threatening to boot AFL players out of WA if they flout COVID restrictions. Collingwood's Steel Sidebottom will miss his team's clash with Geelong at Optus Stadium after he breached league protocols.
Another day, another COVID-related headache for the AFL. Collingwood players Steel Sidebottom and Lyndon Dunn found to have breached the league's coronavirus protocols.
Football players are not immune. They're not exempt. They shouldn't think they're above the law.
The Premier and Police Commissioner say any sports people who come to WA must play by our rules.
They can be prosecuted $50,000, and my view would be they'd be kicked out of Western Australia.
It may mean a denial of any entry into Western Australia if anything causes us to be concerned.
And with a surge of coronavirus cases in Victoria, Mark McGowan maintains WA is the best place in Australia to have the grand final.
The rules over East and the chopping and changing has been a bit of a dog's breakfast. We've just had a consistent, sensible, reasonable approach, and I think it's paid dividends.
The Premier's maintaining our hard border stance while announcing another day of no new coronavirus cases as things slowly return to normal in WA. The government's also announced a $36 million blitz on elective surgery waiting lists to clear the backlog.
This significant delay now means that we have to provide this extra investment.
The extra funding will allow almost 6,000 more procedures to be carried out by the end of this year. In a bid to reduce waiting lists, there'll be extra surgery carried out at night and on weekends. Additional medical staff may be employed and existing workers will be offered extra hours.
I know it's welcomed by all the staff who are working day and night to try and clear that backlog.
Lee Steele for 10 News First.
Victoria's recorded 73 new cases of coronavirus as the state government battles to bring the spike under control. And come midnight tonight, people living in 36 hotspots will be placed into lockdown for another 4 weeks.
From tomorrow, Melbourne will be a city divided. The suburb-by-suburb lockdown affects more than 300,000 residents across 10 postcodes.
I know and understand that this will be deeply inconvenient, it'll be frustrating, it'll be very challenging.
Victoria recorded 73 new COVID cases overnight. 3 were from hotel quarantine, 9 were associated with known clusters, 19 were from routine testing, 42 remain under investigation.
There is the beginnings of some consistency here, and that is obviously better than other options where we might see doubling and doubling again.
There'll be neighbouring suburbs with different rules. Those locked down along the borders can only watch as normal life continues just across the road.
I live on this side, I'm on the Ascot Vale side.
And I'm on this side, on the Moonee Pond side.
It spells heartbreak for businesses who had glimpsed the light at the end of the tunnel. Gym owner Eddie Ung opened his doors just over a week ago.
And we were just starting to move forward, and it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
And those in the hotspots are being told to forget about escaping to New South Wales.
As soon as you step foot in New South Wales, you'll be exposed to the possibility of 6 months jail and an $11,000 fine.
South Australia has nearly 300 police deployed to stop Victorians crossing the border, but will consider welcoming back those from nearby Western Victoria.
I think that is definitely the general direction that we are heading.
SBS has been forced to close its Melbourne office after a staff member tested positive on Sunday. Some radio programs have been affected by the closure. Daniel Andrews had announced a retired judge will lead an inquiry into how security guards working at hotels then spread the virus in their communities. But he's still facing tough questions about how Victoria got that part of quarantine so wrong.
These are unacceptable breaches But that's happened. That has occurred. We can't change that. We can only try and understand exactly what the nature of that is.
Interstate nurses are being flown in to help with the testing blitz, along with clinical staff to expand Victoria's contract tracing team. Emma O'Sullivan for 10 News First.
For a second day, crews have battled rough conditions to search for an international student swept off rocks near Yallingup. Heng Yi Go was taking photos with friends when a freak wave hit. Reporter Steph Baumgartel filed this report from the scene.
Monica, another day of searching the ocean off Inderjup Natural Spa has failed to find missing international student Heng Yi Go. Yesterday, hazardous ocean conditions and monster swells forced marine rescue from the water. SES volunteers forced to wear life jackets as they searched the rocks. With safety concerns, they too could be swept out to sea. The hope was that conditions today would ease enough to get search crews back on the water, but again it was simply too unsafe. Police and SES volunteers forced to restrict their efforts to a land search, using drones to scan the ocean for any sign of the missing economics student. We understand Heng Yi Go had spent the weekend in Dunsborough with 5 others. They'd been taking photos at the rocks on Monday evening when a rogue wave swept him out to sea. Monica, at this stage it's not known if tomorrow's search will be able to go ahead, but police are hopeful if the weather does improve they will be able to continue. Heng Yi Go's family live in Singapore. It's understood they're applying for a travel exemption that will allow them to fly into Perth in the coming days.
Steph Baumgartel reporting from Yallingup there. Security analysts are warning Australia's facing international threats not seen since before the Second World War. Today, the Prime Minister announced an extra $270 billion to strengthen our defence forces from a possible attack.
Australia putting its money where its might is.
It is a pivotal day for Australia and for our defence forces.
$270 billion over the next decade to boost our defence force. $2.5 billion destined for WA. COVID-19, the catalyst for a new world, one where Australia has to be ready to pack a punch.
One of the most challenging times we have known since the 1930s.
Post-depression and, according to security experts, pre-war.
It feels like about 1937 to me, and in particular if you look at the behaviour of China annexing territories.
I haven't had so much discussion about the possibility of a major war that I have heard over the past 4 or 5 years.
Most will go to the maritime sector, $75 billion. Air capabilities will be boosted by $65 billion, land $55 billion, and space $7 billion, mainly for more satellites.
It is important that we have much greater awareness of what is happening in space.
Adding to our military's arsenal, an anti-ship missile will buy from the US Navy for $800 million, with a range of more than 370 kilometres. The government is looking into buying others that cover thousands of kilometres.
We are seeing profound shifts in the technology that is being developed and that is being militarised.
With tensions rising over territory claims, Australia will also extend our radar system to cover the Pacific.
Our region will not only shape our future, increasingly though, it is the focus of the dominant global contest of our age.
It's not just attacks from the sea and from the sky that we have to worry about. Analysts say that cyber attacks are the battleground of the future.
The confrontation now extends to the cyber paradigm, and it's not only limited to traditional physical spheres.
And Australia can't keep relying on old alliances.
We can no longer have the luxury of simply expecting that the United States would remain our security guarantor.
We need to also prepare for a post-COVID world that is poorer, that is more dangerous, and that is more disorderly.
Brendan Crew for 10 News First.
A new shudder has gone through our relationship with China. The Morrison government today saying Australia is troubled by Beijing's ominous move against the people of Hong Kong, where 100,000 Australians are currently living.
A ceremony to honour the moment 23 years ago today when China took control of Hong Kong. At the time, Beijing pledged to honour for 50 years freedoms negotiated by the departing Brits. Effectively, that ended today. After years of mass protests against Beijing's growing control, now there are new laws that Hong Kong people never got a chance to see, let alone vote on. A short time ago, the first arrest under the new laws of a man who simply displayed a flag. There is now up to life imprisonment for anyone participating even peacefully in calls for independence for Hong Kong or any other territory claimed by China. Chillingly, where China suspects foreign involvement, the investigators, prosecutors and judges will all be appointed by the Communist Party in Beijing.
Probably in the future, we may never see 1 million people on the street again, not because we are satisfied with the government, but just because we are now living in fear.
Australia joins many international partners in expressing our deep concern, says Foreign Minister Marise Payne. Australia is troubled, she says, by the law's implications. They are so broad and vague, say human rights groups, no one can be sure if they're breaking them, making silence the only safe option.
We're going to see this in the media. We're likely to see this in education and politics. It's going to have far-ranging effects.
100,000 Australians make a home in Hong Kong. Chinese state media says the new laws are a watershed. On that, there is no dispute. Hugh Rimmington for 10 News First.
The Avon Descent has fallen victim to COVID-19. Organisers last night deciding to cancel the iconic whitewater race due to safety challenges and lack of sponsorship.
2 days of whitewater action that have been a highlight of WA's adventure calendar for nearly 50 years.
It just captures the imagination of paddlers not only across Australia but around the world.
Now, for the first time in its history, organisers have cancelled the Avon Descent, citing the effects of coronavirus.
The board's just determined that the risk to the event and the risk to the public, in the case of an outbreak, is just too much to carry.
They say it's too hard to monitor the tens of thousands of spectators and competitors spanning the 124-kilometre course. The pandemic also scaring off sponsors.
They're keen to be involved, but again, the current situation is that they can't afford to be as upfront as they'd normally be with that financial support.
Competitors will be refunded, with organisers now putting their minds to next year's event. Meanwhile, the City of Perth has given the go-ahead to the Skyworks Christmas and New Year's Eve events, with some modifications for safety. But if restrictions are toughened, the council will reconsider.
If we had to have further lockdowns, that's the only thing I can see that would prevent Skyworks going ahead.
As for the Perth Royal Show, it's still up in the air, but organisers say they know how important it is to the community and they're working furiously to make a decision by the end of the week. And live music is back, with WA Unlocked playing at HBF Stadium in 2 weeks. Amelia Simpson for 10 News First.
WA Police are preparing to investigate the City of Perth after a damning inquiry uncovered what it called possible criminal behaviour. The long-running probe came after accusations of dysfunction and bullying, forcing the entire council to be dismissed.
Clearly what's happened at the City of Perth was very disturbing. That's why we suspended the council, that's why we launched the inquiry. And I think our position has been vindicated on this.
Mr Power, I know, has concluded his inquiry. I do expect, though, from what I've read, that I'll be shortly in receipt of a request to investigate matters.
The report will be made public after the government seeks legal advice. Police have laid charges over a fatal house fire in Geraldton. The body of a 63-year-old man was found inside a burnt-out home on Arran Court in Carlu on Monday. Authorities say the fire was deliberately lit and arrested a 39-year-old Thornley man shortly after. He's now been charged with grievous bodily harm and faced court in Geraldton. Detectives are calling on anyone with information to come forward. The West Australian newspapers bowed to public pressure and published a front-page apology for a racist cartoon. The Modesty Blaze strip, published on Monday, used a racist word for an Indigenous Australian man. The paper responded yesterday by replacing the cartoon's regular spot with an explanation that it was a comic from the 1980s and sourced from a third party. After widespread criticism, the editor of Seven owned publication said he was sorry for the hurt the cartoon caused and Modesty Blaze will no longer be used. A Huntingdale family is pleading for the return of their pet dog. Security cameras captured the moment the 6-month-old Staffy was scooped up and put into a car yesterday morning. The family says the car was spotted circling the area beforehand and are asking anyone who knows the people involved to come forward. Let's take an early look at sport now with Tim Gossage. Eagles fans have cause for optimism this weekend.
We think they do. Monica Koss, thank you very much. Good to be here. Tim Kelly and the Sydney Swans. We'll explain why it's a match-up made in heaven a little later. Also, Collingwood is coming to Perth, but as we heard, one of their star steel side bottom will be on the sidelines after copping a hefty suspension today from the AFL. And this wasn't a case of Irish eyes are smiling. Conor McKenna not happy to still be the centre of attention. And we're going to head to Melbourne with Katie Price. There's some breaking news in regards to some players being told to get out of their homes.
Thanks, Tim. See you later. After the break on 10, price drop. Perth hardest hit as the national property slump continues. And why a vegan activist accused of stealing piglets had a sudden change of heart.
The last year has seen double-digit property price growth in our two biggest cities. But as the economic effects of COVID-19 become clearer, we are seeing values around the country sliding. And while it is a smaller than expected drop, CoreLogic has just released data showing that national prices have fallen for the second month in a row, nationally down 0.7%. Melbourne and Perth led the pack. Their values decreased more than 1% in June. Sydney wasn't far behind, down 0.8%. The losses in Brisbane and Adelaide weren't as bad, and it was only Hobart and Darwin that bucked the trend. In other property news, if you are trying to get into the market, the second intake of the first home loan deposit scheme begins today. 10,000 new spots opening up, allowing first home buyers to put down just a 5% deposit at time of purchase. New financial year, well, how did the markets go? Early trade was a little bit up and down, but the benchmark finished up 0.6%. Afterpay set a new record. A good performance as well from the gold miners, with spot gold hitting its highest point in nearly 8 years. Northern Star, one of the better performers, up 7%. The big banks all finished up, dragging up the financials. Suncorp ended down, however, after announcing a leadership shake-up. Right now, the Aussie dollar is buying just under 69 US cents.
Police body cameras are helping the corruption investigate claims of excessive force by officers. A parliamentary committee today heard the DV and internal investigators a better picture of what happens during critical incidents.
The clarity and the capture of both audio and vision is not only improving officer safety, it's providing very clear evidence to our courts.
The technology was rolled out earlier than expected following a number of high-profile investigations into the actions of police. Police are hunting a man who used a knife to steal drugs and cash from a southern suburbs pharmacy. The man entered the business on Rockingham Road in Spearwood around 9:30 last night. Police say he was armed and demanded prescription medication and cash before fleeing on foot. He's described as having fair skin, a slim build and wearing a mask and glasses. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. An Instagram model who doubles as a vegan activist has fronted court accused of stealing piglets from a farm west of Brisbane. The 28-year-old was arrested after posting videos of the alleged theft to her social media accounts.
She's the aspiring Instagram star who's accused of showing far from model behaviour. A pursuit to save these little piggies from market landed Lauren McGeckin in hot water.
I'm definitely a bit shaken up. I definitely don't like being here, but you know, I'm here for the right reasons.
The 28-year-old was part of a group of vegan activists who allegedly broke into a Pittsworth piggery and stole 6 piglets in November last year. After videos of the alleged heist were broadcast to her 70,000 followers, police came knocking.
What you guys doing?
The alleged piglet pincher is charged with entering a premises with intent and stealing livestock.
Animals are not stock. They're animals. They can feel pain, they feel happiness, and they suffer an incredible amount in these factory farms.
Ms McGecken was expected to plead guilty and be sentenced today, but at the 11th hour had a change of heart. Her lawyer asked for her case to be adjourned so that a brief of evidence could be provided.
I do want to keep everyone informed, and I love putting this message out about veganism, so I hope everyone still follows my story.
Its next chapter due when McGecken returns to court in August. Samantha Butler for 10 News First.
Michael Schultz joins us at the desk now. June turned out to be a record breaker.
It did for the state. It was the warmest June on record, and the mean maximum temperature for the state was running at around 2.5 more than that above the long-term average. For the city, 21.4 was the average across June, and that made it the equal warmest June on record with 2017. We started July on a cooler note with that 16.3, but the month is expected to be warmer than average according to the Bureau. Last night's minimum was 12 degrees. Around the area, 14 at Bickley and Dwellingup, 17 at Guildford, 18 reported at Lancelin, and for the state, 35 at Wyndham and Columbaroo, the highest maximum. 12 was the lowest. That was recorded at Katanning and Lake Grace in the southern agricultural areas. And tomorrow we're going to be under the influence of a ridge of high pressure, so areas inland over the southern half are going to be very cold and there's likely to be frost. The showers should be confined to the southern coastline, and I'll see you with those details at 5 to 6.
See you then. Ahead on 10 News. Reiner remembered. Hollywood mourns the death of a comedy legend. And there's a bear in there. The mission to save a young cub trapped by discarded rubbish. He was a creator of The Dick Van Dyke Show, director of hit movies, best friend of Mel Brooks and the oldest celebrity on Twitter. But overnight, comedy legend Carl Reiner died at the age of 98.
He might have been 98, but right until the end, Carl Reiner had his finger on the pulse. He tweeted with the enthusiasm of a millennial. His last post was yesterday. And last week he posted a video titled Dispatches from Quarantine, where he talked about his best friend, fellow funny man, Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks is the single most funny human being that ever existed. He comes over every night, we watch Jeopardy, among other things.
They were long-time buddies and co-creators of a classic comedy bit called The 2,000-Year-Old Man.
We know that many, many hundreds of years ago, most men had more than one wife.
Yeah.
Did you practice polygamy in those days?
I never practiced it. I was perfect at it.
But that wasn't Carl Reiner's only legendary comedy creation. He wrote and starred in a series called Head of the Family, which flopped. Then someone suggested,
We'll get a better actor to play you.
That someone was Dick Van Dyke, and Carl wrote the show and appeared on it.
Whatever you were going to say to Laura, I would rather you said to me.
Okay, Rob. If that's the way you want it. Rob, you're a beautiful girl.
He directed hit movies, including 4 starring Steve Martin, and kept acting, keeping the young guns on their toes in Ocean's 11.
You're all aces in my book, but I want the last check I write to bounce.
One of his sons, When Harry Met Sally director Rob Reiner, followed in his footsteps, and his late wife of 65 years, Estelle, delivered one of the most famous lines in movie history.
I'll have what she's having.
We met, fell in love, and I was 20 at the time and she was 28, and people said, this is not a match. Well, it's the kind of match that didn't work because it only worked for 65 years. And if she didn't pass on, we'd still be working on it.
Carl Reiner died peacefully in his sleep. Angela Bishop for 10 News First.
America's top infectious disease expert says the US could soon be experiencing 100,000 new coronavirus cases every day. Dr. Anthony Fauci made the sobering prediction at a Senate hearing as the US hit another daily record with 47,000 infections.
We are now having 40+ thousand new cases a day. I would not be surprised if we go up to 100,000 a day if this does not turn around.
Fauci also warned the explosion of new cases across the south and west is putting the entire country at risk. At least 14 states have now paused or rolled back plans to reopen their economies. US presidential candidate Joe Biden has questioned Donald Trump's cognitive capability over his response to a Russian bounty scandal. Several major newspapers are now reporting the president received a written briefing in February about allegations Russia offered money to the Taliban to kill American and allied troops, but it appears nothing was done in response.
So the idea that somehow he didn't know or isn't being briefed, it is a dereliction of duty if that's the case. And if he was briefed and nothing was done about this, that's a dereliction of duty.
Intelligence officials reportedly also intercepted data showing financial transfers from a Russian military agency to a Taliban-linked account. Russia is denying the claims. At least 19 people have been killed in an explosion at a medical centre in Iran. A gas leak is believed to have caused the blast, which sparked a large fire. 20 others were reportedly rescued and are recovering in hospital. European aircraft maker Airbus is set to cut 15,000 jobs. It suffered a 40% slump to its $90 billion business, with air travel paralysed by the pandemic. In May, its main rival, Boeing, announced it was shedding nearly 13,000 jobs in the US. A passing motorist has performed a daring rescue after a van carrying 3 people overturned and burst into flames in southwest China. The man helped kick in the front windscreen, allowing the passengers to flee to safety, seconds before the vehicle was consumed by fire. No one was seriously injured. A family on a fishing trip in the US has rescued a young black bear that was swimming around with a plastic tub stuck on its head. Exhausted and scared, the animal continued to evade the boaters before they eventually got close enough to yank the container off, saving it from a near certain death. The distressed bear had reportedly first been spotted 3 days earlier. After the break, early intervention, the pre-pregnancy trial aimed at giving babies a better start at life. And find out the extra measures making cinemas safer as silver screens across the state get set to light up again. The top stories here on 10 News First. The Premier has issued a warning to travelling AFL teams after Collingwood star Steele Sidebottom was banned for 4 games for breaching COVID-19 protocols. The Avon Descent is the latest event to fall victim to COVID-19. The Whitewater race has been cancelled due to a lack of sponsorship and fears for spectator safety. And a family in Huntingdale is pleading for the return of their pet dog. Security cameras captured the 6-month-old Staffy being stolen outside their home. Women planning a pregnancy will take part in an Australian-first trial aimed at giving babies a better start to life. The study will focus on the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle before falling pregnant.
Alana Taylor is taking a different approach to planning her second pregnancy after giving birth to baby Jet 10 months ago.
The health of your body is paramount, especially before you have a child, which I didn't quite understand pre-Jet.
She's one of 300 Australian women trialling a pre-pregnancy lifestyle program aimed at boosting the health of mums-to-be.
They'll be provided with really personalised advice and coaching.
Staying in a healthy weight range is one of the main goals. 50% of Australian women are overweight when they fall pregnant, and 50% gain excess kilos during pregnancy. 65% retain weight after birth, and each excess kilo is linked to a 10% increase in adverse outcomes for the mother and child. Doctors say early intervention will improve fertility and lower the risk of pregnancy complications like gestational diabetes and preeclampsia.
This is an Australian first in that we get to engage women prior to pregnancy where they're not necessarily engaged with the healthcare system yet.
The program will be run over the phone and online by Monash University with health insurer Medibank to help recruit participants. It's hoped it'll pave the way for pre-pregnancy care to become routine.
The more that you plan and the more that you put yourself in the right position physically and emotionally, the more likely you are to have a better outcome or a better experience.
Estelle Lewis for 10 News First.
Movie lovers are in for a treat, with most Perth cinemas reopening tomorrow. But enjoying a flick will look a little different to before COVID-19.
For months, WA cinema seats have been empty, but silver screens across the state will light up tomorrow.
Really excited to get everyone back in and having our doors open again.
Palace at Rain Square is one of them, with restrictions, including reduced seating, social distancing measures and extra cleaning. Movie theatres were permitted under Phase 3, most waiting till now to reopen.
We've seen this in other states, how conditions have gone backwards and forwards and restrictions are changing almost every day. So for the safety of our customers, we did elect just to stay closed for the extra couple of weeks.
Luna Leederville is ready to go with spaced sessions to give staff time to wipe everything down.
The popcorn and the choc bombs, it's all part of that big screen experience that people have been hanging out for.
With Hollywood shut down by the pandemic and uncertainty hanging over when the industry will get back to work, cinemas will be re-showing some modern favourites along with the classics.
We've got our film festivals coming up. The French Film Festival is opening on the 14th of July, so there's a lot going on.
Have some fun now that we're allowed to, and just have a good time, get everyone back in and remember the magic of cinema.
One cinema that won't be showing is Paradiso in Northbridge, which permanently pulled the curtains down 2 weeks ago. Film buffs are encouraged to jump online to book, with seats filling up fast. Chiara Zaffino for 10 News First.
Sports next with Goss. Tim Kelly has responded to the critics.
That he's done on the Gold Coast, Monica. There's been calls the Eagles are soft, but hear what the big-name recruit has to say about that. Also, the AFL has come down very hard on Collingwood's COVID-19 rule breaker. Steel Sidebottom banned for a month. And Lionel Messi joins a rare club as another goal-scoring machine fires home a rocket.
Good evening. The above-average temperatures look like they're going to continue through July. We've just recorded the warmest June on record for Western Australia and the equal warmest for Perth. Didn't feel like it today, however. We only got to a top of 16.3 degrees at 1:30. The overnight minimum was 12. That was at 5:30 this morning. 13.6 now. The winds are south-southeasterly at 6 kilometres an hour. Barometer 1,023. It's rising. Relative humidity 65%. Daytime temperatures, many of you had 16, the same as the city, but it got to 18 up to the north at Lancelin. Guildford was a little bit warmer with 17 and cooler in the hills with 14 at Bickley and Dwellingup. The lowest maximum in the state today was 12. That came from the Great Southern at Katanning and Lake Grace. 35 was the highest maximum. That was at Wyndham and Columbaroo in the Kimberley. And 5 was the lowest last night. That was recorded at Ongerup, at Laverton in the Goldfields and at Walloona. Jarrahdale had the most rain in the 24 hours up until 9 o'clock this morning with 13 millimetres. Mundaring had 10 millimetres and there were a few falls down around the southwest, also around the 10 millimetre mark. Now, since 9 o'clock this morning, the satellite shows the frontal feature moving through the Bight. There have been some falls around 5 millimetres in the Esperance area. Bridgetown's had a further 2 millimetres. And there's been some showers lingering off the west coast. Rottnest Island had 2 millimetres after 9 o'clock this morning. Onto the chart, and it's now about the high pressure ridge. That keeps the onshore flow for the southern coastline, strengthens the winds on the upper west coast too. There is a strong wind warning for offshore waters between Denham and Coral Bay. Tomorrow's rainfall is going to be along the southern coastline and it will become more isolated as the day goes on. There will also be showers about the Euclid coast and areas adjacent to the south coast. The inland areas could pick up a little bit of light shower activity for a period tomorrow morning. But really that high pressure cell will clear out the skies over most inland parts of the southern half, so there's likely to be frost over southeastern parts of the Gascoyne, in the Goldfields, the southern interior and inland parts of the southwest land division. That includes Kalgoorlie tomorrow with that minimum of 2 degrees before a maximum of 16. A shower or two is likely in Esperance with the top of 16. Albany's also expecting 16 degrees with showers. Should be sunny in Broome, Kununurra and Carnarvon. The The other centres expecting a bit of cloud, but it should clear for Geraldton. Brisbane should be partly cloudy. Sydney should be windy, sunny through the Northern Territory. Everyone else on the east coast is expecting showers tomorrow. Just 14 degrees expected in Melbourne, Canberra and Adelaide. A little cooler than that for Hobart. Light winds on local waters overnight will be east to southeasterly before dawn tomorrow at 10 to 15 knots. Seas below a metre, and the southwesterly swell is expected to ease further. Tomorrow morning it'll be down to 2 to 3 metres. The high tide is 1.2 metres, a little over that. It's expected at 17 minutes past 7 in the morning. The low tide 0.65 of a metre at 7 past 5 tomorrow evening. Sunrise at 18 past 7 and sunset at 24 minutes past 5. So a break from the showers continues tomorrow. It'll be partly cloudy. The winds will be light. It'll be a cold start down to 5. Tomorrow's maximum a little bit warmer than today, up to 18 degrees. Friday, the day will be sunny, but it'll be another cool start with 7 to 20 degrees. Saturday, partly cloudy, 11 to 23. On Sunday, we're expecting showers. It looks like it'll be 5 to 15 millimetres, mostly late in the day, 13 the minimum, and the maximum should reach 21.
Mark McGowan is threatening to boot AFL players out of WA if they flout COVID restrictions. Collingwood's Steele Sidebottom will miss his team's clash with Geelong at Optus Stadium after he breached league protocols.
Another day, another COVID-related headache for the AFL. Collingwood players Steele Sidebottom and Lyndon Dunn found to have breached the league's coronavirus protocols.
Football players are not immune. They're not exempt. They shouldn't think they're above the law.
The Premier and Police Commissioner say any sports people who come to WA must play by our rules.
They can be prosecuted $50,000, and my view would be they'd be kicked out of Western Australia.
It may mean a denial of any entry into Western Australia if anything causes us to be concerned.
The Premier's maintaining our hard border stance while announcing another day of no new coronavirus cases as things slowly return to normal in WA. The government's also announced a $36 million blitz on elective surgery waiting lists to clear the backlog. The extra funding will allow almost 6,000 more procedures to be carried out by the end of this year. In a bid to reduce waiting lists, there'll be extra surgery carried out at night and on weekends. Additional medical staff may be employed and existing workers will be offered extra hours.
I know it's welcomed by all the staff who are working day and night to try and clear that backlog.
Lee Steele for 10 News First.
Victorians in 36 coronavirus hotspots are just hours away from lockdown. The state's struggling to contain a recent outbreak with another 73 cases today.
As more than 300,000 Victorians living in hotspots prepare to enter a second lockdown, a warning.
This is not over. It won't be over for a long time.
Restrictions begin in 10 hotspot postcodes at midnight and remain in place until the end of July.
If I didn't shut down those postcodes, I'd be shutting down all postcodes. And I don't think we want to get to that point.
The postcodes suburbs concentrated in Melbourne's north and west. But if our infection rate keeps rising, they could be expanded and the lockdown could be extended. Today, Victoria recorded 73 new cases of coronavirus. 3 are returned travellers in hotel quarantine. 9 are linked to known clusters. 19 were found through routine testing and, alarmingly, 42 are still under investigation. SBS has been forced to close its Melbourne office after a staff member tested positive on Sunday. Some radio programs have been affected by the closure.
We're still seeing a really significant concentration in those hotspots. That's a trend that is holding up.
Residents who live in the hotspots are only allowed to leave for one of 4 essential reasons. And while the border with New South Wales remains open, that state is talking tough.
Victorians right now from those hotspots are not welcome in New South Wales.
They risk a huge fine or jail time.
As soon as you step foot in New South Wales, you'll be exposed to the possibility of 6 months jail and an $11,000 fine.
South Australia now has 260 officers patrolling the border with Victoria, but it's considering letting southwest Victorians in.
I think that is definitely the general direction that we are heading.
So while Victoria isn't returning to a statewide lockdown, leaving is almost impossible. Candice Wyatt for 10 News First.
Rough weather has again hampered efforts to find a uni student swept off rocks near Yallingup. Heng Yi Go was hit by a freak wave on Monday afternoon and hasn't been seen since. Steph Baumgartel has this from the scene.
Monica, it's been 42 hours since international student Heng Yi Go was swept into monstrous swell off Indijap Natural Spa, but police haven't lost hope. Yesterday, hazardous ocean conditions meant marine rescue crews weren't able to get onto the water. SES volunteers instead forced a search on the land. Conditions so dangerous for the volunteers they wore life jackets as they searched in case they too were swept from the rocks. The hope was that conditions today would ease enough for divers and water police to search the ocean. But again, it was simply too unsafe. Police instead searching on foot and using drones to scan the ocean for any sign of the missing student. Police say the family of Heng Yi Go were hoping to get a travel exemption that will allow them to fly into Perth from Singapore. Monica, wild weather has hindered search efforts so far, but police are hopeful they'll be able to make use of a break in the conditions tomorrow.
WA's Avon Descent has been cancelled because of the coronavirus pandemic. The iconic event's been running for nearly 50 years, but organisers last night decided to axe the 2020 race.
Yeah, the board's just determined that the risk to the event and the risk to the public, in the case of an outbreak, is just too much to carry.
Competitors will be refunded, with organisers now turning their attention to next year's event. $2.5 billion will be spent in WA as Australia moves to bolster its defence systems. It's as the Prime Minister warned of a more dangerous and disorderly world in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic.
COVID-19 has been a catalyst for a new world, provoking disorder and unrest and causing diplomatic relationships to quickly deteriorate.
One of the most challenging times we have known since the 1930s.
Post-depression and pre-war.
It feels like about 1937 to me, and in particular if you look at the behaviour of China annexing territories.
A blunt warning as the Australian government detailed a $270 billion military cash splash.
We are seeing profound shifts in the technology that is being developed and that is being militarised.
The lion's share will go to the maritime sector, a solid $75 billion. Air capabilities will be boosted by $65 billion, land $55 billion, and there's $7 billion for space, predominantly for more satellites.
It is important that we have much greater awareness of what is happening in space.
The big ticket item will cover the air and seas, a long-range anti-ship missile that will buy from the US Navy for $800 million. It has a range of more than 370 kilometres, but the government is looking into buying others that cover thousands.
It looks like the Pentagon came with a shopping list and Australia agreed to go out and pick up the tab.
The equipment and strategies aren't just to protect mainland Australia, but also our neighbours in the Indo-Pacific region.
Our new strategic settings will also make us a better, more efficient ally. It means a lot to us.
Territorial claims have seen tensions rise, with our Jindalee over-the-horizon radar network to now be expanded to cover the Pacific.
And that means for the first time since the Second World War, we have to be looking out east as well as north when we're considering where threats may come from.
And when. Tegan George for 10 News First.
The Tax Office website has crashed after being flooded with Australians trying to lodge their returns. There's also been a renewed rush on the government's early access to superannuation.
Tax time is more taxing than ever. The new financial year starting not with a bang, but with a crash.
It's not good enough, entirely predictable when Australian households are doing it tough.
This year, the Tax Office website was hit with a double whammy. The usual tax returns and the start of the second round of superannuation withdrawals. COVID-19 has changed and chopped many jobs.
For a lot of people, that could mean that they've potentially overpaid some tax in the earlier part of the year, and that could flow through into some bigger refunds now. And in addition, there'll be a lot of people who'll be looking to claim working from home deductions.
And according to a national survey, roughly 1 in 3 Aussies will bank their returns.
So the average tax return is about $2,300. So we estimate if everybody did bank it to the percentages we're seeing in the survey, we're talking about $17 billion extra in savings across Australia.
But if you don't get money back, many will be forced to dip into super. 2.3 million people accessed $17 billion in the first round of withdrawals, with the average amount taken out just under $7,500. For some, that's their entire retirement savings.
Many have cleared out their accounts entirely. So what that means is Australia's most vulnerable people might not have any superannuation savings to access in the second round.
This year, low and middle income earners will receive up to $1,080 of relief. There are also cuts to the tax rate for small businesses with turnovers of less than $50 million, while the $150,000 instant asset write-off has been extended for 6 months. And several groups receiving government payments are in line for more support. As always, you have until October 31st to lodge. And while we wouldn't recommend waiting until then, maybe give it a few days. Charlotte Goodlett for 10 News First.
Now, we often say Australian made is best, but there's some confusion over an Aussie icon that's had a major makeover. The green and gold Australian-made logo has been scrapped, and a rebranded version will feature our national flower, the wattle, and the letters AU. The Brand Advisory Council has said the previous design will still be used for locally made products, while the new one will be used internationally by Australian businesses and government agencies. Goss is back. Tim Kelly says the Eagles aren't soft.
No, absolutely. He has spoken up about his teammates. We'll hear from the Eagles star shortly. Also, the ban for Steel Sidebottom and a rugby league team that's got out of town just in time.